A-Day weekend can be huge for the Auburn Tigers.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's Recruiting Thursday, and of course, recruiting is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnCollege. Brian Smith, Locked On Recruiting Insider, as well as Auburn recruiting writer at auburndaily.com, hanging out with us on this Recruiting Thursday. We'll talk about what Auburn needs to do Saturday as far as, how they can win on the recruiting trail this weekend. But Brian, there's been so much smoke in a positive way about Husan Longstreet being interested in the Auburn Tigers. Where are you with all of this?
Well, this is a fit. I mean, the player fits the offense that Hugh Freeze has been known to run with the RPO. He's been to campus. He's coming back to campus. And quite honestly, I can understand why anybody would want to recruit him. He was the first kid selected to Elite 11 this year. Very accurate, plays at one of the best programs in the country in Centennial, just outside of L.A. I like the fit, and I'm not surprised. But, I mean, he's at A&M, and he's at Oregon, he's at Ole Miss, all these programs across the country. But Auburn's the team that's trending.
Yeah, he put out his list of where he intends to visit before he announces his commitment, which I believe is April 16th, I think is what he said. Auburn's the last one. Auburn's the last one of all of those. I mean, how much stock do you put into that being important, kind of getting that last visit there?
A lot of coaches will go for the last visit, whether it's unofficial or official. They try to get the last in-home visit, anything they can to be the closest thing to decision and seeing a coach. So I believe it's a good trend, and Auburn also is going to get him for A-Day, from what I remember. So that's important. And finally, this is a kid that is going to be able to see if he does visit, everything goes according to plan, like I can come in and play in this offense. So there's a lot of good pieces for Auburn here.
And his commitment date is April 14th. It's 2 days off, April 14th. So worth noting for sure. So you mentioned his ability to move, his ability to kind of have that fit in a Hugh Freeze style offense. That being paired with him being the first quarterback selected for the Elite 11, is that a little unique?
I mean, they have it early in LA because that's where it's based out of. But I mean, like, he was the guy. In LA, quarterback-wise, is always really good. I mean, it's probably the best city in the country over the last 50 years for quarterbacks. So I'd imagine that it's a good sign. And watching his film makes it pretty easy. Back shoulder throw, short, over the middle, in between the safety and linebacker. He can do anything that you want. Yeah. And for those that probably do not know this, and you probably don't either, Centennial is like one of the best programs in the country, especially offensively and teaching stuff up a level, meaning like they're not really running a high school offense. He's going to come in well more advanced than like what Walker was or somebody like that, because he's played against the elite competition and he's not just running a basic offense. He's got elite players he's going against and on his side, and it is chess. It is not checkers. So this kid is really smart too.
So when you talk about like how good Longstreet could be day one if he were to commit to Auburn, let's just dream for a second. Let's say he picks the Tigers. What does this do as far as potential timeline? Because let's say Walker were to win the job over Hank Brown next year, or even if Hank Brown wins the job, both those guys have a ton of eligibility left. How does that impact a guy like Longstreet?
Somebody's going to leave. Yeah. That's just the way that is. The days of stockpiling quarterback talent never began in my lifetime, really. Buddy of mine did a thing on Notre Dame to like 1984 or something. 2/3 of the high school quarterbacks even Notre Dame signed transferred. If you don't start, you leave. That's pretty much how it works out. And especially with the portal. And that's when a lot of that time you're talking about, we had to sit out a year. Now with the portal and immediate eligibility, you're going to lose 2/3, if not more. Yeah. You just play the best player. Whatever happens, happens. You got to recruit a guy every year, and at least every other year you're considering taking a portal quarterback in addition to. It's just an era we're in, brother.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I get it. This kind of seems like some unintended consequences for a lot of these rules that all change at the same time so quickly.
Oh, it did. It's a good point.
Let's talk about offensive tackle for a second. It seems like there is a lot of traction with Auburn landing Broderick Scholl, who's a top offensive tackle in Oklahoma. One of the publications, I think it's On3, has him as like the 11th ranked offensive tackle in this class, which I think that's a position that we've talked about every time you and I had a conversation on a camera ever. But now you look at it, it's like, okay, there have been some predictions from some big names in the field that say Scholl to Auburn is a thing. Well, they landed Tavares Dice a few weeks ago. This comes after the fact that they added 2 really solid offensive tackles last class. All of a sudden, you see some real momentum on the offensive line for Auburn if this were to happen.
When was the last time we made a statement like that?
Never. We never have.
Well, you and I haven't. No, actually.
Seriously, it's been a minute. It's been a minute since that's happened. All joking aside.
When I was a kid, Auburn always used to have these really good offensive lines, and even into early 2000s, you'd think about,
sure,
they're going to have a balanced line, this and that. It's just consistent. It's bizarre where it trended. Watching them at practice this week, like they're getting better. There's no question. Jalen and some of the guys, it's kind of hard not to like the center position. They got a guy that started as a freshman. They're going to have at least 2 more years, et cetera. But
yeah,
tackle is still the one spot where they just haven't recruited the high school kids well at all. They just haven't. Having Dice, maybe getting this young man, Spencer Dowling might be able to play it. Like, God forbid they got 3 tackles in the class. They might have to stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If one of them doesn't work out there, then you can kick them to guard. May the best man win. That's what football is. There's nothing wrong with playing guard. There's a lot of guys making millions and millions of dollars doing it. So Auburn has more options now. And here's the other part.
Yeah.
This is just freaking April. I mean, they could add somebody later too. I mean, again, this is a very good plan that's working out early, but it doesn't mean it's over either. I mean, Auburn could get 5 good linemen in this class, and I know I'll speak for you. You're okay with it. I feel it in your bones from all the way over here. I can tell you, you're okay with it.
There was a conversation I had with John Garcia on this show a few years ago, and I was like, let's get all the offensive tackles you can. He's like, well, you got to see if there's room in the class. You can't have 10 offensive tackles. And I'm like, why not, John? Why not? At this point, get all the offensive tackles you possibly can.
When you don't have tackle play, your chances of being consistent on offense are all but nil.
Yeah.
We all know, especially in the SEC where they got so many edge rushers. So while you were playing along a little bit there's some validity to it. Like there were a couple years they could have taken 4 tackles that have been like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And because you can scoot inside. Tackles can play guard. You don't want guards playing tackle. And to me, that's 100%. Like, you get as many tackles that are willing to be a part of your class as possible that you can afford from an NIL point of view. You get as many as you can. It'll work itself out. Worst case, they leave.
And you know what? Then you just take that scholarship and what do you do with it, Zach?
You get another offensive tackle.
This guy knows it. Everybody should follow Zac Blackerby on Twitter, all kinds of stuff. He's got it. No, seriously, like a couple of the coaches that I have followed in my life, O-line guys, they believed in taking tackles. Whoever worked out, fine. But if they didn't, you moved him in. Harry Heastand, that was at Notre Dame, put a bunch of guys in the NFL. Like, he moved Quentin Nelson to guard. He said, you can play tackle. If you want to get paid, go to guard. He was a 6th pick. Now he's one of the best players in the world for this team.
Yeah, because say you're wearing the Colts too. Yep.
Yeah. Look, it's okay. But he also was playing with McGlinchey and stuff. The best guys will work themselves out. Give me the best athletes. I think, especially in the NFL, yeah, that's kind of important to do. So I think that you're looking at Auburn. When was the last time they had a tackle drafted into the NFL? I mean,
Greg Robinson was a 1st-round pick, but that would have been the 2014 draft.
I mean, that's a decade. We're talking about Auburn.
Yeah, I think they had some guys go late a few years ago. The guy that went to the Eagles, I'm totally blanking on his name, but yeah, I mean, not early picks. It's been a minute.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, like, if you look at the teams that win titles, they'll have at least one guy in the trenches on one side or the other. You're like, okay, we got a plan for this guy.
Well, and then like Braden Smith, but I don't even want to count him because he played guard at Auburn and then he's a tackle in the NFL. And it's like, what were we doing, man? Like, what's going on?
That's one of the oddest things I've ever, that is extreme rare. So,
Yeah, he's extremely good. It's just
yes, he is.
whatever. Okay, so what can Auburn do to win on the recruiting trail this weekend? Brian, we discuss in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at Amazon Fire TV. We love Amazon Fire, and you will too. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. They offer an amazing viewing experience with smart TVs, as well as the magical Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV. It makes it a smartphone, and it gives it all of these extra features. You can just control with your remote, or I believe your phone too. So be sure to check that out. At Fire TV, they recently created Fire TV channels that deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. So be sure to check that out, including the Locked On Sports Today channel on Amazon Fire TV. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. Brian Smith, our guest on this Cruton Thursday. We'll also be joined by Spencer McLaughlin of Locked On College Football in a few minutes. But before that, Brian, from a recruiting standpoint, and you've been doing this a long time, what do you think Auburn should do on Saturday? There's going to be a lot of visitors in town. What do they need to do both on the field and off the field to win the day from a recruiting point of view?
The bigger part is off the field. 8A and like any other spring game, there's some moments, but it's not a full-on game like normal. The kids know that. They're going to enjoy it being on the field. It's the people. I mean, you and I have talked about many times before I moved up here. You're not going to meet many nicer people than the folks around Auburn. Let them mingle, get to know the coaches better, build those relationships, and say, look, you can play here. That's the last part. Like Auburn can sell playing time right now pretty easy. Yeah. You keeps offering us that info. Like, we're really young. We need a lot of help. And he's right. They have an easy road here. Early playing time's not difficult to sell when it's obvious. And the people at Auburn are great. Yeah, the people are always nice to me, you, everybody. It's a pretty easy sell, man. Just don't screw it up. Yeah. And then let the game kind of show the kids everything. Their parents, everybody. It'll take care of itself because it's the SEC, man. Just be who you are.
Yeah, as far as on the field, what do you think? Do you think they need to throw it more to kind of show a modern offense? Do you think
that would help?
They need to do anything specifically as far as kind of making that sales pitch so when this coaching staff goes to talk to the kids after the scrimmage, they can talk about certain things? What do you think they need to do there?
Got to say, well, this guy is going to be you in a year or two. This is what he did. This is how we can help you get to the NFL. Kids want to hear NFL. And I'm sure that the coaches want to put them there too, because that's cool. The defense, as we've both seen, like they're super aggressive, easy to sell. Just tell them where they're going to play.
Yeah.
I mean, the field will take care of the rest. That defense is pretty good. I mean, Durkin has done a great job coming in. I'll give him all the credit in the world. Offensively, let's see who's healthy at receiver. We've been through this, but I mean, they just keep getting hurt. But Cam being out there, I thought Kane looked good at practice this week. They have some exciting young players.
Yeah.
And they're doing some different things. So I'm curious to see those guys get the ball. And them getting it will also show, hey, we're willing to play the young guys. Waller, I mean, he played linebacker and edge this week. Mm-hmm. You got guys like all the D linemen, TJ Lindsey, all those guys. All of them.
McLaughlin was with the ones for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Amaris is a freakazoid. He's my favorite of the group, if that's possible.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like his upside's through the roof. You have an incredible group of kids say, look, we're playing these guys. Here's what they're doing. Now you can come help them and we can really build something here. Again, playing time's available.
Yeah.
They don't have a deep junior, senior, fifth year group. They don't. And you can bust in there pretty quick. So I think those things, and then it'd be nice to see the ball in the air. Everybody likes to see the ball in the air. I just don't know how much it'll happen because of injuries, but it would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we started seeing some slot guys play outside earlier this week just because of necessity. So we'll see. Yeah. We'll see what that looks like on 8A. We got to watch almost like an hour of practice earlier this week. Brian, you mentioned a few of these guys, but what really stood out to you?
Number one was probably just the defensive secondary. Like, I know they get used to their patterns and stuff, and it's advantage defense, but they're more athletic in the secondary than I thought going into spring. They're well coached. Mm-hmm. Crime and those guys, they do a good job, but like, they're just more athletic, longer than I had anticipated. Just like standing next to guys.
Yeah.
Okay, this kid's 6 foot. He's got long arms. He can run, change direction. Lee, I don't want to single anybody out, but like everybody can play some kind of man coverage. If you can do that at the SEC level, it gives you a chance to which Durkin is going to send the darts. He's going to be throwing them at you. So we're going to see an aggressive defense. And I know that he's an offensive guy, but Hugh Freeze talked about like our quarterbacks haven't been really ready for everything they're throwing at us. So the assimilation from the coaching staff on defense has been great. And the blitzing, I think the Auburn fans are going to like it. They're really aggressive, man. And I love that. So the other thing that I like is the fact the offensive line's gotten better. I know you brought up a certain offensive guard. Jalen has gotten better. And some of these other guys, they need that. And they got Percy. So you're going to see a better offensive line this year. That'll help the RPO game, help pass protection and everything. But it's not the most sexy and exciting thing. But if you don't have offensive line play, man, it's over. So
I think trenches are the thing to watch on Saturday. If you're an Auburn fan watching, I think trenches are the thing to watch. One, does the offensive line move as a unit? And two, does the defensive line get pushed around or not? Because to me, I think that's the big question
100%
about that is what does that matchup look like? Do you see true competition? Do you see them creating havoc in the backfield from a defensive line point of view? All those guys are going to be big. So I'm there with you. And then just the order in which guys play, I think is going to be really, really interesting because this defensive back room, I mean, Hugh Freeze talked them up over and over and over again earlier this week in his last media availability before A-Day. And he really loves the defensive back room. He mentioned how young they are, but we don't fully know like where everybody is. It's like, is this guy a nickel? Is he a safety? Is he a nickel or is he a corner? So I think kind of seeing those guys slot in, I think will be, I think we'll learn a lot from that too.
If you have guys that can play multiple spots in the secondary, you're going to save yourself a lot of time and a lot of energy and win more games. Guys added like Crawford, as a freshman, he looks the part. If you can have guys like that contribute, and then Lee's taking a further step, you can tell he's bigger and stronger. Yeah. I talked to him about that earlier this month, and I think it's going to be a pretty good group overall in the secondary, and that'll be kind of the leaderboard. I think that'll be the thing people talk about the most leading A-Day. Oh, I didn't know they had that many guys that could play. Mm-hmm. They're good on the back end, man. There's nobody I go, man, they got to find somebody in the portal to replace it. They need to start. They don't need that. They need guys in the trenches. That's what I need.
I went on Locked On College Football to join Spencer McLaughlin to preview Auburn's A-Day. That's coming up. But first, Brian, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Auburn Daily is where it's at. We're going to have a lot of coverage for A-Day. We're going to have a lot of fun with recruiting. Could be some commitments coming up. I'm hoping one of them is a quarterback here pretty soon that we talked about a little bit ago. Yeah. But with A-Day, anybody could pop. That's the history of spring games, so anything is possible. And you can find me at FBScout_Florida on X as well.
Yeah, be sure to check it all out at auburndaily.com. We preview more of Auburn's A-Day coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel's America's #1 sports book. The sports calendar is loaded right now, and FanDuel's making it even more exciting to get in on the action because right now new customers can get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 that you can use to bet on the Final Four, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL is apparently happening right now, and so much more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to make your first bet a big win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook.
One of the first major spring games in college football has got a lot of questions to answer as Hugh Freeze goes into year 2. Let's bring on Zac Blackerby. He is what we call the boss man here at the Locked On College Network, host of Locked On Auburn. And Zac, let's just dive right into the quarterback discussion because Peyton Thorne, he's the guy, right? Like there's no question, there's no uncertainty. Is it Peyton Thorne or is it not Peyton Thorne?
Hugh Freeze told us in his last media availability before A-Day's game on Saturday, it's like, yeah, we're expecting Peyton Thorne to be Auburn's quarterback going into fall camp. So he told us all of that. And then he gave us probably about an hour's worth of a viewing window at practice earlier this week, which was super nice of him. Thank you so much. And he kind of showed us like, this is why they threw a ton in front of us. We normally don't get to see that. We just get to see drills and handoffs and things like that. Peyton Thorne by far the most consistent of the 4 quarterbacks that Auburn has on scholarship right now. I do think the future is brighter at the quarterback position for Auburn than it is currently, because I think the 2 young guys that they have, Hank Brown, Walker White, I think both those guys are going to be very, very good SEC quarterbacks when it's all said and done. But as far as right now, yeah, it's Peyton Thorne.
If you look at where he would fall amongst other SEC quarterbacks, is he good enough to take Auburn to where they want to go in year 2?
Is he good enough? Like, does he have the skill set to do it? Yes, but let me add the caveat of I don't think he needs to be great for Auburn to succeed in 2024. And by succeed, I mean win 8, 9, 10 games. And some Auburn fans will think, oh, we can do better than that. I don't think so. I think this roster still has a lot of concerns, Spencer. And one of those is quarterback. Let's just be honest. But does he have the ability to do it? Yes, we've seen him make the throws. We've seen him use his legs. He was actually pretty impressive as a runner a year ago. Can he put it all together, and can he be more consistent? And look, I think I said this last time I was on this incredible show, Locked On College Football with you, Spencer, where I think it's easier now to play quarterback at Auburn this year than it was a year ago. They went out and got better wide receivers. The offensive line looks really, really good. One of the more physically impressive looking offensive lines I've ever seen at Auburn. And that's been a minute. And to me, like, yeah, the scheme with Hugh Freeze saying publicly, I'm going to be more involved with the game plan. I've hired people to kind of help on the recruiting front, so I don't have to spend as much time doing that. I think it's going to be an easier gig to play quarterback this year for Peyton Thorne than it was a year ago.
As you look ahead to the spring game, which is on Saturday, it's one of the first major spring games. We're going to talk about another one later in today's show as well. NC State has got their spring game on Saturday. Plenty of quarterback questions there. But, you know, this is still somewhat of a question as we talked about. What should Auburn fans or just college football fans be looking for from Peyton Thorne in this spring game?
Yeah, I mean, you hope he just kind of goes out and does what he's supposed to do. I can't imagine people would run with an impressive stat line and say, yes, Peyton Thorne has taken this big step forward, but I think you hope that he just kind of takes care of business and you avoid the negative pub. I think that really should be Peyton Thorne's goal, because I don't think he has a whole lot to gain, but I do think he has some stuff to lose as far as perspective goes from outside of Auburn. So, you know, can he go 8 of 10 for 70-something yards? Maybe he scores once or twice. Like, I think that's what he should be. And the big storyline I think that Auburn fans are so excited to see is his number 1 wide receiver, true freshman, Cam Coleman, former 5-star. Spencer, I sound like a broken record because I talk about it every day on Locked On Auburn, but this kid is special. I've never seen anything like this kid. The player that he was as an 18-year-old coming in and being an early enrollee in the first day of spring that we got to see versus now, it's incredible. This kid is special. And Auburn fans in the college football world get to see their first public glimpse of what Cam Coleman can be on Saturday. So it's going to be must-watch TV.
How important is it for Cam Coleman to live up to the hype that you have clearly set for him solely and individually on Locked On Auburn for Peyton Thorne and that Auburn offense?
Well, I think there's different ways to look at that. Like, from Cam Coleman personally, you have to think that he knows he can be a first-round draft pick one day. He's that good, Spencer. So the pressure on him to do that, it's like, yeah, you need to perform. You need to focus on getting better as a wide receiver. And sometimes it takes a little bit of an adjustment period because these kids have always been the best player on the team and the best player on the field. And you can see that early in Cam Coleman's development. Like earlier this week, I was watching him and he kind of had a hard time creating a ton of separation, but he still made the catch because he's so good at pinpointing the football. But he was being bumped at the line, and like he's not using his long arms to kind of brush off the defender's hands quite yet. So, I mean, he needs that college coaching like a lot of these young, very talented freshmen do. So things like that. As far as Auburn's impact this year, yeah, they need him. Wide receiver is still, it's way better than it was a year ago, but it's still, they have a long way to go in that room because the passing concepts and just the offense as a whole, it wasn't good a year ago when they threw the football. It was good when they ran the ball. It was not good when they threw the football. And so if that's going to take a step forward, it's going to be Cam Coleman. And then Auburn's leading pass catcher from a year ago is their tight end, Rivaldo Fairweather. those guys are going to really, really have to carry the passing offense.
You look at Coleman and Fairweather, those will probably be your top 2 targets, but who else might have an opportunity to shine in the spring game and win themselves a little bit of playing time, given the somewhat transitory nature of that offense and who's productive?
Yeah, you talk about the transfer portal a ton, so we'll go with one of Auburn's guys that they picked up this past transfer portal window. From Georgia State, Robert Lewis was one of the more decorated wide receivers at the G5 level a year ago. He's hit the ground running. He just seems a tick faster than everybody else when he's kind of running his routes. His routes are so crisp. You can tell he's a developed route runner and developed wide receiver as a veteran guy. I believe this is his last year of eligibility. So I expect him to start at the slot for Auburn, and we may get a few good glimpses of him on Saturday.
Zach, refresh my memory. We've talked a lot about offense here so far in this segment. How many sides of the football are there in a game?
3 if you count special teams.
That's the right answer right there. It's exactly what I hoped you would say.
I'm
a huge special teams guy. If you are special on special teams, let me tell you, I think that far too many college football fans have been burned by kickers or punters or a muff punt or anything like that to overlook special teams. But we do know that defense is slightly more important. So let's go to that side of the football because they get a few more snaps on the field. What does this Auburn pass rush look like?
It's a lot of questions. There's a lot of questions about this pass rush, but the top guy, I think, has the chance to be one of the... I think you should be a dark horse when you talk about like who can break out in the SEC next year. Jalen McLeod, another guy that transferred, this guy a year ago, transferred over the summer from App State to Auburn. We heard nothing but great things about how impressive he was early on in his tenure over the course of summer workouts and fall camp. Gets hurt towards the end of fall camp, has some sort of level of an ankle sprain, got healthy towards the end of last year and was great. This offseason, he's been described as elite, unblockable, playing at a different level than everybody else around him. So Jalen McLeod is certainly a name to watch. After that, there are concerns about this team's depth when it comes to rushing the passer.
I love the word elite more than most people. I use it in just kind of my everyday vocabulary. So Joe Flacco is a great example. Elite? Well, of course, this is not, he's the comeback player of the year in the NFL. Of course he is elite. I'll get you out of here on this, Zach. Who's one other player defensively that Auburn fans or everybody else in the college football world should be aware of?
Yeah, Sylvester Smith, the young safety. I think he's gonna start. And right now it looks like he's got a chance to start over Jaron Thompson, who was a key part of Texas's defense a year ago, who made the college football playoff. He transfers to Auburn, and he's competing with Sylvester Smith, the guy that we saw a little bit in the bowl game because he had to play based off of the rest of Auburn's defensive backroom going to the NFL. But Spencer, let me tell you this. I was down in Mobile covering Auburn's defensive backroom for the Senior Bowl earlier this offseason. Ran into an NFL scout, was talking to him, and I said, hey, who's an Auburn guy that your organization is looking at? And without skipping a beat, he says, we love Sylvester Smith. This is a guy that hasn't played a whole lot. They love his traits. They love what he's done at the high school game. They liked what he did in the bowl game and what they've done as far as talking to guys throughout the SEC. Sylvester Smith is the guy to watch. Thanks so much to Spencer for letting me go on Locked On College Football. Be sure to check out that show and also be sure to check out all of Brian's work as well. We got one more show until A-Day. Be sure to like the video. Please subscribe, and we'll see you then. This has been Locked On Auburn.